Hey everyone, welcome back to the Thundertron podcast. So today I'm going to be discussing and giving you my thoughts on the recently revealed Transformers Legacy United Doom and Destruction Collection 2-pack and 3-pack. Let me know what you think of both these packs in the comments section down below. Are they a pickup or a pass? Now starting right off with the price, the 3-pack will be priced at $55 and will be released on August 1st. The 2-pack will be priced at $60 and will also be released on August 1st. Now unfortunately, as of the time I'm recording this audio, both of them are sold out on Hasbro Pulse, but since both these packs are Amazon exclusives, the majority of the stock is on Amazon, so they should still be available. Now starting off this segment, I want to take a look at the Doom and Destruction 3-pack, but towards the end we will take a look at the Doom and Destruction 2-pack. The first figure I want to talk about and take a look at is the Deluxe Class Chop Shot, because if you don't know, I've actually been wanting a good representation and figure of Chop Shot in my collection for quite some time now. I never really cared about the design or what continuity he came from, I just wanted some form of this character in my collection, and I'm really glad I'll be able to do so with this pack and this figure. But if you don't know, this figure is a heavy extensive repaint retool of the previous Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Insecticon Shrapnel, which I thought was a very good Deluxe Class figure, so I definitely have high expectations and hopes for this figure. But I'm going to start off by pointing out all the changes in mold and new pieces between the two versions of this mold, if you don't already know. So he does have a brand new head sculpt. I do think the large mandibles or tusks at his shoulders might be slightly new. I do think they're maybe using the same base piece for the mandibles, but I think there might be a few added details like some more spikes and some more angles and panels on them, but I could be wrong. He does have some added insect arms on his forms that were not present before. And as for the chest, now I could be wrong about this. The other changes I mentioned before are quite obviously brand new pieces we've never seen before. The chest, he might have a few new added details and pieces. I could be wrong. I think I'll have to wait until I get the figure in hand to confirm that for sure. But from what I can tell, there might be just a few very minuscule minor changes, but I could be wrong. But that's all the ones I've been able to find. That being said, they haven't really shown any images of the back of the figure for any of these figures in these packs, so there could be some changes that we'll finally realize and know once we get these figures in hand. But for the time being, that's all the ones I've been able to see. As far as accessories go, he does come with the exact same ones that came with Shrapnel, so his handheld blaster and the two identical blasters all have the same features and functions, so you can combine all three to make that super long rifle. That was never really my favorite feature of Shrapnel, but you still can do it if you liked it with the previous version of the mold. And they all have the same storage options in the robot mode and the all mode. As far as the design goes, I actually do quite like the dark brown, the orange, and the red color scheme. I think it really works for this mold and the character. Transformation should be the exact same thing as Shrapnel, so if you have that figure, you pretty much know what to expect with this one. Now taking a look at the alt mode, the two identical blasters still do form his back or hind legs as they did with Shrapnel, so no surprise there. I'd say the most noticeable change you can tell in his little Beetlebug alt mode is the insect legs that are kind of sticking out of the side of the alt mode. Those were not there before. It was actually very flat and smooth before, so I actually kind of like the addition of the legs because it makes it look more angular, more oval, and definitely more creepy, more bug-like, so I do like that addition. And again, the mandibles might be slightly different, but I could be wrong. And the handheld blaster, the simple, separate one that's not identical to the other weapons, can be stored on top just like before. Now moving on to the next deluxe, a part of this 3-pack, we have the Deluxe Class Barrage, which if you don't know is a heavy retool repaint of the previous Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Insecticon Bombshell, which I have to say I think it was very smart on Hasbro's part to repaint and retool Bombshell and Shrapnel for this Amazon exclusive 3-pack. Because if you don't know, the original uses of these molds, the Insecticons that were put out in a Legacy and a Legacy Evolution, were pretty hard to come by figures, and it really surprised most of the Transformers community because they were just typical retail mainline deluxes. You could find them anywhere: Amazon, Target, HEB, Walmart, pretty much any action figure website you can think of. They should have been there for the retail price, but they were just really hard to track down. I was actually very lucky. I was able to track down all three for pretty much retail price. So I think it was a really smart move on Hasbro's part to put these molds out again, so it gives other people an opportunity if they missed out the first time to get this mold now. And I'm assuming most likely, considering both of these Amazon exclusive 2-packs that I'm going to discuss in this segment, none of them include a retool repaint of Kickback. Maybe we'll be getting one later in this year or early 2025. We'll just have to wait and see. But now, picking out and pointing out all the differences in mold and the added pieces between Shrapnel and Barrage. If you don't already know, I'll point them out right now. So he does have a brand new head sculpt, a brand new chest piece. Also on the underside of his forearms, he does have some brand new hind insect legs, which I actually think look pretty cool. I do like how they added those. And the legs, it's kind of like how I was with the chest with Chop Shot. I could be right or wrong about this. The legs overall, like the base mold, them seem very similar to Bombshell, but I think there might be a few added surface detailings, like some small lines and some panel details that could be different from the previous figure. I really won't be able to say for sure until I get this figure in hand. As far as the details and design goes, I actually do quite like that really dark green. It's not like a light green, it's a very dark, almost turquoise color, sort of, but I do like the shade they chose for that. And there's actually two different shades of yellow. It's an interesting color scheme. It might not work for everyone, but it definitely works for me. As far as accessories go, he does come with his exact same ones that came with Bombshell. So the two identical pistols that, of course, typically do attach onto the underside of his forearms. And this does kind of raise a question. Since there are those insect legs there on the underside of his forearms, can you still put the weapons there, or can you not do that storage anymore? And he still does include that separate non-identical pistol, the larger one, more of an oval shape that has like 3 barrels. That one is also included. This time around, of course, they're not in that silver and black color scheme how they came with Bombshell. This time they're in that kind of greenish, dark turquoise color, which I think looks pretty cool. And just like Chop Shot with Shrapnel, you can combine all the weapons just as Bombshell did, which again, I never really liked the whole combining weapon gimmick. It kind of seemed like an afterthought. It didn't look that good to me, so I typically kept the weapons separate. And just like Chop Shot with Shrapnel, I'm assuming most likely the transformation for Barrage here should be the exact same thing as Bombshell. So moving on to his Beetlebug alt mode, I have to say it looks pretty wacky. As far as mold-wise goes, like the most notable changes you can see, of course, you can see he finally does have some hind legs, because if you don't know, before with Bombshell, his back insect legs were actually made of those two identical accessories, but now you do not have to do that, which I think was very smart, because it was kind of unfortunate you had to use up those really cool guns just to have them act as the legs pointing back, but now you can still have those hind legs, but also use the weapons to create some really cool firing poses and some blaster pieces to put on the figure. And an interesting feature that was not present on the past use of this mold is his mouth can open. I think maybe there was some like attempts to try and have the mouth open or sort of mimic the mouth opening with the Bombshell, but I don't think it ever really works. This is kind of a new thing that we've never seen before. And I think it looks cool. I do have one complaint though. In the pictures that we see of the insect mouth open, I'm pretty sure it is the back of the head or a part of the head that's very visible, so I do hope maybe in the end this could be mistransformed. Maybe in the end it's not as visible as you see here, but those are all my thoughts on Barrage. Let's now move on to the last figure of this pack. That being the Micromaster Wrecker Malleus Minotaurus, which is using the Siege Micromaster Smashdown mold, which, if you don't know, is one of my favorite Micromasters Hasbro has ever released. I think I liked it so much I might have gotten multiple copies for no specific reason. I just really enjoyed and liked the figure and the mold, so you definitely know I'm really happy to see this mold again in this pack. There is no new mold changes, but I do quite like the new color scheme on this mold. It's a really nice kind of steel, metal, kind of iron color. I think it works and pops really well with the bright blue for the eyes and the crest. And I always loved his head sculpt. It was kind of a bull ram type design or silhouette, which I think looked really cool. He does have a tail, and I think that was one of the major complaints apart the figure, because the tail was actually the handle of his hammer mode, and it did stick out quite a lot. You technically could remove it off the figure and make him hold it, but then he would just be holding this weird stick, and it was very large, out of proportion with the figure for it to be a weapon. So I do understand there were some complaints with the figure, but none of that really bothered me that much. But transformation should be the exact same thing as Smashdown. It's a Micromaster, so it's very straightforward and simple. I think it might have been like 5 or 6 steps, so very easy to do. His alt mode, as I just previously mentioned, is a hammer, and I think it really works with this color scheme, honestly more than Smashdown, because it's actually kind of a steel iron color. It sort of looks like a metal hammer, and again, those blue pinups really work with that iron metal color. And again, like the robot mode, there is no new mold changes, but there is a new accessory. So he does come with the same blaster piece that came with the original used Smashdown, but also a second one, which I have to say really means a lot, and it's kind of a big deal because all the past exclusive packs and HasLabs and figures have included blaster pieces, but they always just reuse the same ones, like the Jetfire ones, the Rodimus Prime ones, the Omega Supreme ones. But I'm so glad to finally see a brand new one. I do hope this means for future releases, exclusive or not, we can finally get some brand new blaster pieces. I hope they kind of pick this up and keep doing it. That being said, the new blaster piece, they don't really have the greatest view or look on it, so you might not be able to see it up on your screen right now because they really only show the hammer from like one angle, and the blaster piece is on the other side of the hammer facing away from the camera or our view, so we don't have the greatest look at it. But from what I can tell, it is a bit more of a simple one than the one we usually see with this mold. But honestly, I'm okay, because the one that came with Smashdown was like this massive explosion, so I think it's fine to have a more, crazy explosion and a bit more of a simple one. But let's now move on to the 2-pack. Now, starting off with the Voyager class of this 2-pack, we have the Prime Universe Voyager class Breakdown, which, if you don't know, is a slight retool repaint of the previous Legacy Voyager class Prime Universe bulkhead, which I have been paying attention to the reception and people's thoughts on this repaint. And interesting enough, some people have said Breakdown works better for this mold than bulkhead ever did, and some people have said the opposite, or the flip side. If you want to know my thoughts, I'm kind of in the middle. I think they both have their good aspects and both work well for this mold. I wouldn't say I have a preference or favorites. Truth be told, I would have preferred a brand new mold for Breakdown rather than just a retool repaint, but with what we got, I think it's just okay. If you do want to know the specific new pieces or new molded pieces different between Breakdown and Bulkhead, I think the only change is the head sculpt. Unfortunately, they could have maybe done a bit more creative things with the figure, but what we got is just a brand new head sculpt. That being said, I think the head sculpt is extremely show accurate to the Transformers Prime series, so I will give him that. As far as accessories go, he does come with all the same ones that came with the past Bulkhead figures. He does come with the Riot Shield, if you don't know, or if you do know, you might be a long-time viewer of the channel. You know I love melee weapons, swords, shields, axes, all that, so that makes me really happy. It also does come with the kind of wrecking ball sort of mace, which, interesting enough that they kept that. I think it makes sense to have it with Bulkhead, but Breakdown never used that in the series. He used a hammer, which, speaking of, he does have a hammer, and there's a bit of an interesting backstory with this hammer. So if you don't know, there has been a total of 3 versions of this mold. breakdown included. The other two are the retail bulkhead, and there was also a previous Amazon exclusive bulkhead. It was the exact same thing as the retail one, but it came with a hammer. And when that pack came out, we were all like, so are we going to get a breakdown? Because it looked very similar to the hammer that he used in the series. And that same hammer we were talking about and, had all those thoughts on is included in this set. So that does make sense to give it to this figure. I'm just not sure why we still have the whole mace to put on his arm because they never used that in the series. I guess more accessories are always better, so I really can't complain. It's just kind of an interesting choice Hasbro made. I really didn't think they would do that. But the final accessory is the Gatling gun, exactly the same as the previous one that came with the bulkhead figures, and it can be stored in his arm or on his shoulder, which is typically where I put it. But I do like that really nice dark blue kind of purple mixture with the really nice smoky gray plastic for the windows. I know a lot of people don't like this figure. It's very stylized. It doesn't look anything like Bulkhead or Breakdown from the Transformers Prime series, but if you said this was a stylized version, I would say yes, but they don't even specifically say that by Hasbro. They just say this is Prime Bulkhead, Prime Breakdown. I wouldn't go that far to say they're super accurate, but if they're kind of, modified different versions, they do work for that. I still do hope maybe in some future line, maybe a part of the Transformer Generations Prime line, we can get some super high accurate Transformers Prime figures. These stylized ones are fine, but I do typically prefer accuracy. As far as transformation goes, I think it should be the exact same thing as Bulkhead, which I think it was a pretty straightforward transformation. I think it was probably around 30-35 steps, so not too bad. As far as his alt mode goes, it's a kind of a military type truck type vehicle, which I think is pretty cool. I always liked one really cool feature, how the riot shield formed this sort of tarp on the back. If you're not a fan of parts forming, that might bother you. I don't really care about parts forming, so it doesn't bother me. And what is nice is underneath the tarp, you can store all of the accessories. Now, since Breakdown does come with the most accessories of all three versions of this mold, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to store the hammer, the mace, the Gatling gun, and all those pieces under there. You might have to leave some out because the past ones, they were only made for 2 or 3 accessories. This one has several more, so we'll have to wait and see about that. But let's now move on to the final figure. Now taking a look at the deluxe a part of this 2-pack, that being Windsweeper, which if you don't know is a slight retool, repaint of the previous Legacy Evolution Deluxe class Needle Nose. And if you're wondering about the specific changes in mold between the two versions of this mold, the only new added piece is the head sculpt. Everything else is the exact same thing. Now taking a look at the new color scheme that this figure has, it's like the sandy brown for the arms and legs with a really nice dark red and silver for the chest. As far as accessories go, if you don't know, Needle Nose did include 2 Target Masters, which are again packaged with Windsweeper here. I'm pretty sure all the same molding and tooling, but with the brand new color scheme and new names. The names are Ozone and Clean Sweep, and they're both done in this really nice kind of gunmetal gray silver shiny paint, which looks really good. Now, if you had a problem with the 2 Target Masters that came with the Needle Nose, because a lot of people didn't like how they were pretty much solid bricks, there was no posability with those mini-cons at all, it never really bothered me that much considering how small they were, and they weren't the main focus of that deluxe class set. The main focus was Needle Nose, not those mini-cons, so it never really bothered me. But if you had a problem with them before, you're probably going to have a problem with these because they are the exact same thing. They're not posable, they're just small little solid kind of display pieces that do transform. Speaking of transformation, all 3 of these figures, Ozone, Clean Sweep, and Windsweeper should have the exact same transformation as their previous versions or other uses of the mold. So if you have that previous deluxe, you pretty much know exactly what to expect and do for this figure here. Now taking a look at the alt modes, the 2 Target Masters transform into blasters. You can have Windsweeper hold them separately, or you can combine them together and form one solid weapon. And these weapons can of course store in the robot mode hand, but also on the underside inside of the Jet, which I think is a really good storage option. Now, taking a look at the Jet, I do like how there's a few details that almost look like stickers and kind of vintage and old, but of course they're actually not stickers. They never really do those these days with any figures, but they do look kind of retro, kind of old. I just like the purple striping and the caution tape yellow and black stripe detailing on the wings, mixed with all that sandy brown color all over the Jet as well. But that's all I have to say on these two Amazon exclusive packs. I hope you enjoyed this Thundertron podcast segment, and I will see you next time.